It's podcadzo.
Do they have like, what is it called? Perrier, San Pellegrino,
Oh yeah,
all that
they have
stuff?
whatever the band wants.
Nice.
The green room's nice as They have like 5 pinball machines down there.
It's a lot of pinball.
Probably like $4,000 worth of Oriental rugs. Huge flat screen TV, a couple leather sofas.
Right.
A production office, several nice bathrooms, laundry room.
One of the last shows we played in Denver, the green room was a trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
One time
with
it was
not
a bus.
even basic trailer accoutrement.
No heat.
Yeah. We'll be back there August 14th. Come see us at Globe Hall.
Was that actually Globe Hall?
That was Globe Hall.
Oh, damn. Well, that being said, it was a very cool green room.
It was fun.
I liked it a lot.
I have fond memories of that night.
Yeah. It was a little cold because it was winter. Or
It
I guess
was winter. It was November.
Yeah.
It was late fall.
Fall.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I always tricked myself into thinking we released the album in August for some reason.
No, we
It's
released
not
it
even
in
close.
like
In
November.
November.
Didn't we?
Late November.
Late November.
I think it was.
I thought it was like middle November.
That was like November 21st. I guess it's kind of
That's
middle November.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's definitely the end of November, but in my mind, it's the middle. 9 days or whatever, 10 days. It's a lot of time to play with.
Yeah. I guess you know 1 through 10 is early in a month. 11 through 20 is late.
Middle.
Middle. And then 21 through 30 or 31 is late.
31.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I feel like growing up, this sounds dumb to say out loud, but I feel like growing up, more of the months had 31 days,
Yeah.
and now they all have 30 days, and it's like, what the hell happened?
How old were you, would you say, when you knew all of the months and the order of the months?
I'm still not convinced that I know
Yeah.
the order of the months.
I remember, I don't know, I have no idea how old I was, but it's a memory I have where I wasn't able to name the months in order, and my parents kind of shamed me. They're like, Colin, you should know the months of the year.
Maybe I would have learned them quicker if my parents did that to me too.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think I ever got quizzed on it. I think I just, because yeah, sometimes I'll think like, especially if I have to write the date, like right now it's June, 24th. And if I had to write the date, I would have to be like, okay, January, February, March, April, May, June.
Really have to count?
06.
You don't know the numbers
Not
associated
all the
with
time, but sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
That's bad.
Depends on the
I have that
It depends
down.
on the month. Like December is 12, obviously. January is 1, February is 2, March is
August.
3. August is 7.
8.
See, it's the middle of the year that gets tricky for me. July
That's
is
so
7.
funny, man.
I'm just bad with numbers in
I
general.
realized
and
today
counting.
I have
I'm dumb.
less of a grasp on the alphabet than I would have thought. I was having to alphabetize a lot of things and then pull things out in alphabetical order. And then every time I pulled anything out, like if it was an H, I'd be like, all right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, G, H. And I'd have to think way harder about it than I would hope to by now in my life.
I was thinking about this the other day on my way home. You know, like the field sobriety test where they make you
Say the
do
alphabet
the
backwards.
alphabet backwards, like starting from a certain letter. Like say the alphabet backwards starting from Q.
Yeah.
I could not do that if I was completely sober and like in the best mental condition, peak performance
Yeah.
brain. Like I don't think I could do that.
That's not just you. It's a dirty trick
Yeah.
that the pigs play on
It
us.
is a filthy trick.
I made a point at one point of memorizing the alphabet backwards. I don't think I could do it still, but I did know how to
Specifically
do that.
for that reason.
Well,
driving drunk
I
a lot?
mean, no, not in case I ever got caught in that scenario, but just as a challenge to myself because I heard that was part of the field sobriety test. I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do that.
Pretty nerdy thing.
Yeah, it's like memorizing pi.
3.1415.
9.2.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, we'll cut it off there. That's good enough for podcadzo.
We didn't do a sync.
Speaking of podcadzo, I think I clapped
Is any
earlier.
of this? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I clapped earlier.
I was gonna say, is any of this usable?
Welcome back to
This is all good
Podcadzo,
stuff.
the official companion podcast to the well-known indie rock band Cadzo. It is a Podcadzo Classico today. We've been having a lot of guests lately. This is just a good old Julian and Colin episode.
Yeah, I feel like Colin doesn't like the episodes where it's just the two of us.
I
been
love
meaning to
them more than anything.
I mean to confront you on this. Why do we always have guests on? Why can't it just be the two of us ever?
I would way prefer to do the two of us ever, but I feel like kind of one of the things we said initially is we'd have guests.
Yeah, that is like the whole reason we started this.
And we tend to be less not that we're going to be lazy today. I mean, we've been
The last couple
at peak
episodes
podcasting.
the last couple
levels.
episodes we've had with guests have been a bit lazy, I feel like. Not
well,
in the delivery, but in the preparation.
Just by having a guest, we're not being lazy. We've done the groundwork to
get them
figure
on.
out someone else's schedule and get them on.
It's
That's
a lot.
how I feel about it.
It's a lot these days.
It is. We're both busy guys, and you know, as much as we would love podcadzo to be our whole lives, it's something we don't really give any attention to at all, except for this hour every week that we record it. Yeah.
It would be cool if someone tomorrow said, "Hey, become a part-time podcaster, put out one episode a week. I'll pay you $30,000 a year." I would quit my job and take that.
Yeah.
I would figure out how to make ends meet with.
We would do it. We would do it.
We would do it.
If we both had 30,000, we'd just move in with each other.
Yeah.
$60,000 households.
30,000 split 2 ways. We both already have a house technically.
Mm-hmm.
I guess probably we could sell one of the houses. Boom, there's like a year's worth of
Podcasting equipment
equipment money.
Because we would have to expand probably then into I would say minimum 3 camera operation.
And yeah, we'd probably have to get a warehouse.
Yep.
In anticipation of all the equipment we would have in the future and all that stuff. And a good, just you want to have a good space to let your creativity kind of run wild. And for me, I'm thinking like that's a 2,000 square foot shop type place full of equipment.
Here's an idea, a real idea.
Mm-hmm.
We contact MTV. We say we have a reality show pitch for you guys. Two guys.
Two
Two guys.
Two wild and crazy guys.
Just the craziest, highest paying jobs out there that you could imagine. Mm-hmm. Because it's worth mentioning, Julian and I both have the craziest, highest paying jobs.
Yes, we're very high status individuals.
We're swimming in it. Two guys.
That being said, my Venmo is linked below.
Yeah. Two guys pulling in 6 figures easily. And we say, hey, MTV, we're going to have you guys make a reality TV show about 2 guys who quit their 7-figure jobs.
It's 7 figures now.
It's gone up to 7 figures.
Inflation.
To become professional podcasters and see if they can make it.
See if we can hang with the likes of the Grape Juice Boys and all that stuff.
Is Grape Juice Boys a podcast now?
I saw something called Grape Juice Boys.
Are you sure it wasn't MD Foodie Boys?
MD Foodie Boys is another great
that's
podcast
probably the most successful podcast right now.
of all time.
Yeah.
Talk Tua obviously deserves a shout out as well.
Is she still doing that?
I think she stopped.
Yeah, after the crypto
I think there was a bit of a scandal involving her. I didn't read into it at
she
all
launched
because I don't give a shit.
Some sort of NFT or some sort of crypto coin, and
It was a scam.
and scammed people.
Yeah, I think I heard roughly about that. But
Yeah.
you could take her name out and replace it with like basically any influencer, and they've kind of all done that recently in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's crypto or I watched this YouTuber who does like car content, and they have this energy drink, but it's not like caffeine energy. It's some sort of like organic energy that's turned out to be completely fake.
Like the Rock's energy drink. What's
Like
that shit
the Rocks.
called? Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
The beverage industry
Everyone's got their own liquor.
is crazy.
We should get a podcadzo tequila and then just a regular Cadzo
Galloway and I
vodka.
were actually joking about that a little bit ago, about making a Cadzo tequila.
Cadzo tequila.
Yeah. Cadzo cognac.
I think it'd be podcadzo tequila.
True.
Because this is like the party side of us. And then the Cadzo band would have like a
It'd be like mead or something.
bathtub mead.
But yeah. Home brew.
Well, I am glad it's just the two of us because I'm afraid I'm wearing the glasses in honor of Bono today because I think we have to do some serious YouTube.
There's so much YouTube stuff to catch up on.
There's a lot of YouTube
Yeah.
that needs to
I'm
be
so
discussed,
glad to hear you say this,
unfortunately.
dude.
I don't know why the wormhole, but that'll come later. And then I also do want to have a little bit of a, I guess,
Serious conversation about the state of the world.
we need to talk about everything going on with Iraq. I guess
Iran.
something will be going on with Iraq soon.
Yeah.
And then, all that stuff. We're going to get into all that. Pretty much just solve the whole Middle East crisis all at once.
It's about time someone got down to it.
They asked us, they said, hey, if you're not doing anything this week, would you mind solving the
They
conflict
said
in
the
Southwest Asia for us?"
organizational and collaborative skills you showed tackling the U2 and Steely Dan discography, we feel will really lend itself to the conflicts in the Middle East.
Translates to American politics.
We need you
Global
to
politics.
literally dismantle an atomic bomb.
Yep. We were the ones in the bombers, by the way. Okay, and then I do also want to mention just a quick recap, because it's something we've talked about a lot lately, I feel like, but a couple weeks have passed. I've seen a couple more videos. I'm a bit more scared about this AI in the music business thing.
Good.
I kind of want to bring it back around to that later.
AI
but
slop has been on my mind a lot lately. John Oliver did a special on it the other
I
night.
saw that he posted that. I was going to go back and watch that, but I've been just watching a lot of random videos about
And hey,
just
listen,
how fearful everyone
I'm
is in the
maybe
creative
the
space.
biggest contributor to AI slop. Kadzo's main income stream lately has been Italian brain rot characters and reimaginations of soprano scenes with babies acting them out instead.
That honestly sounds
Spotify
awesome.
streams have been doing well pretty lately, but that Sopranos baby money has been keeping us afloat. It allowed Julian to buy this T-shirt that he's wearing on the podcast today. And, AI slop, unfortunately, right now is paying the bills, but ultimately we're very against it. It's also been making all of our music, I'll come out and say right now, all of LP1 was AI generated.
So I guess what we're trying to say is we're against it unless it serves us.
I mean,
specifically.
I think we're really the only ones who should be licensed to use it because we have the creative vision to be able to use AI responsibly in a way that makes sense. Do you think people could have written Larimer Street?
No. I mean,
No.
only an algorithm could devise of something like that.
Exactly. And thank you, AI. And also, fans, you're welcome.
And give us money. No, but for reals though, I'm scared.
Me too, brother. I'm in a good mood today. I was very happy to see you. I was very happy to come over here.
Yes, I'm very happy you're here.
Stoked to do the pod. But I'll be honest, yesterday I was down in the dumps.
Crashing out.
I was scared about the state of the world. I was depressed about AI. I really felt it was all meaningless. And I was a Debbie Downer yesterday, full on. And I'm doing better today. I've never really considered myself an extrovert, but lately I have been very energized by being around other people. I was around a lot of people today, had a lot of conversations, and it's put me in a good mood.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think it's there's more like gray area with introverts and extroverts than people initially thought. Like you can kind of be both, and it can also kind of change, like you can spend
Totally.
a large part of your life being one way and then kind of have a shift to being a different way. And I personally feel like in this time where everything's a bit scary and like, we were joking about the Middle East and stuff, but like it's actually scary. I'm scared. Everyone I feel like should be a little bit scared if they're paying attention. But the only thing that's going to get us through it is community, like being here for each other, communicating with each other, reminding each other that at the local level, even at like the country level, for the most part, all the American people do want the same things. We might have different ways of expressing it. We might have different ways of ultimately wanting to get to those things, but we do want the same things.
Realizing that there's a very small amount of people who are actually completely brainwashed by Donald Trump, but they are, of course, the loudest minority of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that even people who lean more conservative, don't discount them as good people.
Yeah.
They are very likely logical people who are having the same concerns everyone else is, who realize the hypocrisies that exist in the administration, who realize the incompetence that we're under. And yes, I totally agree. The best thing you can do is love one another, and spread positive vibes.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, like, at the end of the day, when we all, with any presidency, stuff happens and things change and, like, unpredictable things happen. And I guess a disconnect I've noticed is, like, Republicans who are, I guess, kind of changing their minds about Donald Trump, or, like, changing their kind of perspectives on the ways that the Trump administration is running. That's like a normal thing that always happens in American politics. And with the Trump administration now, things are, like, so extreme that anyone who, like, questions things or, like, changes their mind or changes their stance on things based on new information is kind of seen as, like, evil or, like, a traitor to the whole message. But that really, I think, at the end of the day, makes politics stronger. The ability to have that open discourse and disagree on things and then find a middle ground. The administration is not doing any of that right now, but I think everyone else wants to be there, wants to be at the place where we're making compromises and trying to please both sides.
Well, and
so I'm still hopeful at the end of the day, but it is scary when the threat of war is imminent, and people that think Trump has this under control, I'm sorry, but he just doesn't. Like, no president has been able to stabilize that region for an extended period of time. Trump's not going to do it overnight, and with a singular
no
attack.
president has ever tackled it with less grace, less sense of democracy, less communication, less respect for people in the States and people outside of the States than Donald Trump. And that's what's been so depressing. The one silver lining to this, and this is barely a silver lining, is that at least this whole situation has exposed the fact that there are some people, to my earlier point, on the right who are able to admit that Donald Trump is an Israel cucked puppet dictator who is not the deal maker of the century, who is not some visionary genius, who is truly a narcissistic, ego-obsessed, evil, totally moralist,
driven by money,
devil of a person and of a leader. And
it's all driven by the prospect of financial gains and just making himself more money in the short term and setting himself up to make more money in the long term.
He just really wants to be the most important person in the world and have no one else matter more than him.
He's like the Bono of
that's
politics.
He is the Bono of politics. And if you're the Bono of music,
that's fine.
That's fine, because
it's endearing in some ways.
It's endearing, and that lends itself to, that inherently is a very progressive position to take, because to be the Bono of music is a progressive thing. You have to be a progressive and accepting person. So that's fine for Bono. But politics is very much the opposite.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Fuck Donald Trump.
Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Tulsi Gabbard.
Fuck Tulsi Gabbard.
Fuck Pete
Stephen
Sedgwick.
Miller.
Fuck Stephen Miller.
Fuck Hegseth.
Hegseth, that's what I meant, not Hedgewick. I think that's
it's all the same.
That's the owl from Harry Potter. Which, don't fuck him.
I mean,
Big
unless you have an animal thing.
Well, no, especially then.
Love is love, man.
It's not. It's bestiality.
It's Pride Month.
And that's an owl.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're not the same thing. See? They're not the same thing. Anyway, I think that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah,
that's all we need to say about that.
Okay, that's world's
Today's the day that...
politics covered.
Frame of reference time-wise, today's the day that Donald Trump said fuck
said
on
fuck,
television, which is, I guess, somehow the first time a
which
president's ever
I
done
actually
that.
learned about from you posting that on your story.
I was kind of in disbelief
so
that
it's
that's
the day
first
after
time.
a ceasefire. Yeah, I was surprised too. But I guess who else would? I guess I could have seen Clinton throwing out a fuck back in the day.
Or Biden, honestly.
Just accidentally.
Biden, there was the whole "this is a big fucking deal" thing, but that was like an accidental fuck.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, world politics covered. Well done.
World politics covered. Check that off.
Pretty concise.
I thought you might like this.
Let's get-
My dad sent me a text completely out of the blue earlier that just said, "You've never listened to Neil Young. Stop pulling stuff out of your ass."
Shut up, Dad! You don't know what I listen
We haven't spoken to each other for weeks, and that's the first thing I get.
I remember one time I told someone, I think we were being interviewed on the radio one time in a previous band I was in, and I told someone I was, they were like, how many instruments do you play? What instruments do you play? I was like, well, in the band I play guitar, but like I play a little bass, and play piano, and I've been picking up the mandolin. And my dad he was listening. He's like, "You're not learning the mandolin." I was like, "Yes, I am, Dad. I know 4 chords, and I'm very interested in the possibility of one day learning more."
How come it's always going to be one of your parents that calls you on your shit first? If anything, they should be the ones that are helping you double down on your lies.
No, that's what dads are there for, to call you.
Keep you
I've been
honest.
humbled by my dad many times, and I needed it, and I appreciate it.
You know, I have listened to plenty of Neil Young.
Yeah,
I've been out of the house for almost 12 years now.
that's plenty of time to consume almost all of Neil Young's discography.
I don't really remember ever getting aux when I lived at the house either. I don't think that anyone was ever like, "Hey, Julian, here you go."
And they weren't auditing your Spotify streams.
Brother, I don't think I even fucking had a Spotify
well,
back then.
since you're mentioning your dad, I've been compiling a list in my head for the last couple of weeks of bands I want to ask your dad about. So we really need to have him on soon.
He needs to come on.
Sam,
Get your
speaking
ass
to you
on here.
directly right now, come on the pod. And
Get your not Chinese ass on
the
here.
entire episode is I'm going to name the band, and I'm going to say, what do you think of them? Do you know them? And I think it will be great.
I want to ask him. I have a list of bands that I know he doesn't like that I think he should like. Or maybe he does like them and he's just never told me that he likes them. And I want to just ask him why.
That'll have to be the second time he comes back, because that's going to get in the way of my plan.
The first time needs to just be, I mean, truly, I think, and this, a lot of people say this about their dads and think this about their families in general, but my dad is a genuinely fascinating person with a very rich musical background.
I'd say
and it starts at a
lot
very,
of people
very young
don't
age.
think that about their dads, so that points to the fact that your dad is a cool dad and you guys have a good relationship. Because most people would say my dad sucks
No, my dad kind of
and
sucks.
is not into music.
No, most dads, I guess most people's dads, I have a mixed, it's like a mixed thing. Like, my dad is really unique in a lot of ways that other people's, it's just, my dad's like a lot of people that you don't know, in the sense that like he has a very unique background musically speaking, and he was kind of on the ground floor in a lot of ways in the music business as it was transforming and shifting.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that is he has such a...
Don't say that, because now if we ever have success, people are going to be like, oh, well, they're fucking, Nepo babies.
We're Nepo babies.
Julian was on the podcast bragging about his dad was on the ground floor.
He wasn't in the music business itself. He was just interacting with the music business and reflecting on it. He was in radio, so like as things were changing in radio and as radio became less independent and more commercially owned and more steered by big business and all that stuff, he was kind of through that transition. That's specifically what I'm talking about. But he should really be the one to tell us all that stuff. But at the end of the day, yeah, he knows. I think he probably knows more music than he knows more, like rock and indie and prog and 70s and 80s and 90s than most anyone that I know.
And your dad goes to way
he's got a
more
wealth of
concerts
knowledge.
than I do, but I think it's safe to say that every concert I've been to in the last 6 months,
he's been
at that concert. So we have a very similar taste in music.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many bands that like are special bands to me that not a lot of people are into that I'm just so curious to ask him about because I think he'd be into them. And I really want to do a whole Britpop deep dive with him too.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
He's definitely got he knows a lot about a lot of different mainstream genres, I would say. And it's been fun. Obviously, growing up with him around was one thing because it's like he was showing me all of this stuff that he thought was important and that obviously was culturally significant at the time. But then as I've gotten older, it's been more of like a trading back and forth. Like, oh, I have this band to show you and I have this band to show you. And it's been more of an open dialogue, which has been fun. I definitely think that the reason why I can even do a podcast like this where we talk about music is because of that upbringing that I had where it was just always important. Like we were always talking about new music and upcoming shit. And he was always showing me new stuff, which was cool. That was like, I guess, how we established a relationship first.
My dad's a music head as well, obviously, but he's much more rooted in the classics. He's definitely not as up on new music as your dad is, but he will often surprise me. Like this was several years ago, but I went over to his house and he had every Lana Del Rey album.
That is very surprising.
And had very insightful things to say about all of them. Like he had his Lana albums ranked.
That's
and,
honestly insane.
Yeah. And he just gave me a DMX album.
That's
he gave
cool.
me It's Dark and Hell is Hot. I was like, thanks.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, I think
not that I know DMX is not current music, to be clear on that. Before
I
anyone
mean, to
called
him
me
it is.
yeah. He's just getting to the late 90s, early aughts.
Nah, your dad likes a lot of modern music as well.
He does. Yeah, he's in on the rock world. And yeah.
And I think, like, your dad is cool. We have a bit of the duality of, like, your dad, you grew up in a house where your dad was just a huge music fan. Like, he was just someone who had a genuine appreciation for music as a fan and as someone who liked the craft of like making songs and, you know, obviously having instruments, feeling the room and all that stuff and jamming out. And like my upbringing was more of like the music kind of business side of things, like seeing having to play certain songs by certain bands in order to like appease labels while also sneaking in the things that you like and trying to keep things somewhat
one
different.
For them, one for me.
Exactly. So that it's an interesting duality. It'd be interesting to have both of our dads on at the same time, but given the fact that it's impossible to even get my dad here by himself, we'll just take it as it comes.
Yeah, be curious to see. My dad he'd do the pod. He might demand that we wait until our numbers are up a little bit. Which will happen
That's
soon,
funny.
guys.
I think, in all honesty, we should start sending the pods to my dad, and then he should just do podcadzo
Reviews.
hours on his
Oh,
station.
yeah.
Just run the
If we could just turn
episodes
this
back.
into a live radio program,
We would turn this
we
into
could
a
do
live
that.
hour. We could definitely do that.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be fun to
No
play
doubt.
songs too.
Yeah.
Like talk about a song and then play it. But
It would be, yeah. I would love to be able to play music. I mean, we can play music on the podcast. We're gonna get demonetized, but we don't make money from this anyway.
But it
so.
also is just one of those things. It kind of feels disrespectful to do it on certain platforms.
I
Other
agree. Yeah, it
platforms,
does
it's
feel
okay.
cheap to like play someone else's song on
Yeah,
a
it feels kind of like we're just
Spotify
benefiting
podcast.
off of someone else's work a little bit.
Can I get another alcohol?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. BRB.
Oh, what you got there, little
It's
boy?
good stuff. I really like this alcoholic, premium alcohol beverage.
Premium alcohol. I do enjoy it a lot as well. It's probably it's my favorite canned booze that I've ever had.
It's the podcadzo drink of the summer. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, hopefully I'm done drinking it by the end of the summer. But
So, can I go into a call-in recommendation station real quick?
yes.
I have a couple movies and some music I want to talk about.
Okay.
First, movies. Recently on the podcast, we've talked about the films Sinners and Friendship.
Which I have not
I've seen both of those movies. I saw both of them this past weekend, finally. Let me say, Sinners is a hell of a movie. That
Yeah?
shit's crazy, man. I haven't had such a fun movie watching experience in a while. Don't watch it alone. Have some people over.
I literally am always alone.
Have some drinks. Come over to my house. I will watch Sinners with you again.
Okay.
We'll have some drinks. We'll order some food. It's a crazy movie. It's a fun horror movie. Also a dark horror movie. Pretty gruesome. But they managed to keep it fun. Managed to walk that line. A lot of Delta blues music in it as well.
That's cool.
Pretty cool. Friendship.
What are your thoughts? Seems like a polarizing film from the outside.
Man. So if you're into Tim Robinson and you hang with the sketch show, you like his comedy, you're gonna like it. Just by virtue of it being an hour and a half Tim Robinson sketch, essentially. So I liked it. I can see a little bit where the haters are coming from, slightly. It's really, if I were going to be critical about it, and let me, full transparency, I gave the movie an 8 out of 10 on IMDb, a 4 out of 10 on Letterboxd. Okay.
Wow, that's
So I'm
an interesting.
Or sorry, 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Okay, I was like, that's a very interesting thing to do.
4 out of 5. Yeah.
Like, give it a really good rating on one and a pretty shit one on another.
Well, you know,
Just
I'm
testing the waters.
a tough critic on Letterboxd. I have to keep that reputation. No, 8 out of 10 and 4 out of 5.
What is your Letterboxd again?
Dillboy Brando. Thank you. Thanks, Julian. Please follow me at Dillboy Brando.
Dillboy Brando.
So
I just like hearing you say it.
So to be critical, if I were going to put on my critic hat, I can see where the haters are coming from. The movie really is just kind of written to be a vehicle for like the Tim Robinson isms.
But that's how everyone writes their movies. Tarantino writes all of his movies to just be vehicles for Tarantino-isms.
For Tarantino to say the N-word.
Saying the N-word.
But so like there were parts of it where I feel like it was just a bit too like improv by Tim Robinson, perhaps.
Was he just indulging himself?
Yeah, I guess that's a good word. It was like a few parts that were maybe overly indulgent.
Without even seeing the film, I can see it going there because I feel that's how a lot of his sketches are.
A lot of people have said instant classic. I don't know if I agree that this will be
I don't think it'll have a
comedy film.
Long shelf life. Probably not.
Maybe a cult classic.
Sure.
That sort of thing.
Sure.
It's not a Step Brothers level classic.
Yeah.
Like what have you there.
Was it even trying to be one of those? I feel like it's trying to be a bit more of a cult film.
Yeah, definitely. It's a weird movie. It's A24. It's weird. They even marketed it as I Love You Man for weirdos, which crazy. They rip off a lot of I Love You Man too.
Interesting.
Where basically Paul Rudd is now playing the Jason Segel character in I Love You Man instead of the Paul Rudd character. Yeah. And Paul Rudd's great in it though. And yeah, like I said, I loved it. I laughed. Julia and I both were laughing hysterically the whole time.
That's cool. Julia liked it.
Yeah, she loves Tim Robinson.
Really? Okay, that's cool.
But yeah, I can see where people are coming from if they're like, it was too out there for me.
I always felt like he was one of those like kind of more bro-y comedians, like that the Robinson show was kind of more geared for dudes.
No, he started like hella alt.
Okay.
Out there. But I Think You Should Leave became so mainstream, like surprisingly mainstream.
But it was always like that fucking cis white guy who'd be like, oh, I love Tim Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Rick and Morty.
But most sketch comedy is cis white guys, to be fair.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
We like to have fun.
To have an improvised joke. Yeah. So yeah, check out Friendship. It was great.
Did you review that one on your Letterboxd?
I haven't written a full review. I gave it stars, but I haven't written a review. So that's forthcoming for sure. I think I'd like to give it a second view before I write a written review.
Sure, that's fair.
What else is in my recommendation station? Big one. The Proposition. Have you heard of this movie?
Mm-mm.
Came out in 2005 or 2006.
Maybe I have heard of
And I loved the movie, but why I wanted to bring it up on the podcast is because none other than Nick Cave wrote the screenplay.
Weird.
Yeah. So it's a Western set in Australia in probably the 1800s. They don't tell you the years, but it's like kind of as Australia is being quote unquote civilized by the English Empire when they were genociding the Aborigine
That
population.
part of the world.
Yes. And it's Guy Pearce, who does a great job in it, Ray Winstone, who does a great job in it, and a bunch of other English actors that you will recognize that I can't think of their names right now. But it is super brutal, like very violent, very gruesome, but like such a great story. Nick Cave not only wrote it, but he does the score for it. So there's a lot of cool like original Australian music and, you know, Nick Cave score. And yeah, great movie.
Huh.
So check out
All right.
The Proposition.
That man is so talented.
He
He's
is.
got so much different shit going
Nick
on.
Cave is actually, I might have to take him off after I say this, but he was on my list of people I wanted to mention to your dad.
No, you definitely should still mention him.
Okay.
My dad is, well, no spoilers. I won't say anything. My dad hates Nick Cave.
Okay, then I'll definitely mention Nick Cave. I think that was those are the big films I wanted to touch on in Colin's recommendation station. Music, the Nick Cave thing was my music connection to our music podcast. We've been covering a lot like new music lately as it comes out. There's a new Franz Ferdinand song that I listened to today that features
What?
Johnny Marr. Mm-hmm.
Didn't they just put out that
They
record?
put out a record, but they did a like single release today. So the A side is a collab with Johnny Marr. Great guitar on it. Johnny Marr does not sing, to my surprise, on the track, but cool little track. And then the B side is a live performance of. Let me make sure I get this right. 1 second.
Well, I'll mention, I think, well, I don't know if it'll be in the episode or not. We kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but Thrice has changed their album, or they've changed their profile pictures on Instagram and Facebook and all that jazz, and there's like a snippet of a new song and a video for the tour that they just announced. I think there's definitely a new album cycle gearing up there, so
That's
that's
awesome.
something to be fucking hyped about.
The Franz Ferdinand is Build It Up with Franz Ferdinand and Johnny Marr. And then the B-side is Hooked, live at Glasgow Barrowlands with Franz Ferdinand and Masterpiece.
What's Hooked?
That's a song, I think Hooked was on their All You Girls Will Never Know album. It's kind of, let me confirm this.
It's been so long
It's
since I
kind
listened
of
to that band.
clubby. I know the first Franz Ferdinand album so well, and I don't think I've really listened to any other. I listened to the new one.
The first two a bunch when I was like growing up, but I haven't checked them out in a really long time.
Oh no, sorry. Hooked is on the latest album, The Human Fear.
Yeah,
The
I
Human
didn't
Fear.
finish that record. I really thought it was so derivative of itself.
Yeah.
Like if you told AI to write you a Franz Ferdinand song, that's what that album sounds like.
I agree.
But I don't know. I think that they should have stopped so long ago. Like after their second record, they should have just been like, "All right, we're done."
Were you ever like real into Franz Ferdinand? And
Yes, I was super into Franz Ferdinand. They actually, like, again, their first two records, the first one's self-titled, and then the second one it's got the ridiculously long name.
yeah, I can picture the album cover, but
With
here,
the
I'll just look it up.
shouting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned those albums on drums when I
cool.
was like still kind of learning how to play drums. Those were like some of the first records I taught myself how to
You could
play.
have it so much better.
Yes. Those records are both incredibly good.
Yeah, I did. I said I didn't really listen I listened to the second album quite
It's
a bit. For
pretty
that.
much just a
It's-
direct extension of the first record, so
but without like mega hits like the
without
first record
the
had.
mega hits, I guess.
The 2004 Franz Ferdinand is one of the. We've done our debut episodes or debut album episodes. I think Franz Ferdinand made the list. If not,
think so.
it definitely should have. It's a perfect debut album. Such a
Yeah.
cool album.
It really excited
It's
the music
crazy.
scene.
Yeah. They like it's so fully arrived. You know.
Yeah, totally. It came out huge, and everyone was like so on board with it pretty much from the beginning. And it also, it was like a recapitulation of things that kind of happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, but in a very original way, if that makes sense. Like it felt familiar, but it felt innovative at the same time.
I remember that Meet You in the Bathroom book, which I definitely recommend to listeners that I've talked about on the podcast before. It's kind of about the New York 2000s indie rock scene, but they go out from there. And I remember there's a bit on Franz Ferdinand, and there's a quote in there from like an English music journalist that Franz Ferdinand's Darts of Pleasure off the first album is the first time that English audiences had been excited about lyrics since Pulp. It was a big thing. For some reason, it always sticks in my head. Yeah.
That's high. I guess that's high praise. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, I think, really clever British lyricism between those two things. But
I would think so too. But
fuck me,
that's
I guess.
what this journalist said, and that's always
I'm
maybe the thing
changing
that
my whole
sticks
opinion
around
to-
in my head the most from that book, which is weird.
I can't remember if we mentioned this or not, but I did want to mention again, if we have already mentioned it, the new King Gizzard record. Have you checked that out? It's called Phantom Island.
Yes. What was this first single from Phantom Island?
It was that
streaming,
Dead Stick song.
Yeah, I was streaming that a lot.
Or
And-
no, I don't think Dead Stick was the first single.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
I think it was Phantom Island.
Let me
Title
look it up.
track.
Let me look it up. 1 second. 1 second.
But Dead Stick was the
2
second single. And that song is very, very good.
Maybe it was just Phantom Island that was the debut.
I think that was the debut single.
Wait,
for
let me
sure.
listen to it for a sec. Yeah.
I've come around a little bit on this record. At first, I was a bit harsh on it and kind of felt like the orchestra component was underutilized and that it felt like it was kind of more an added thing than a central plot to the record. But the more I've listened to it, the more I've realized that they just used the orchestra way more like texturally and a bit more subtly in some ways.
Yes.
And sometimes it's more...
Texturally is a good description for that, yeah.
Yeah.
From the songs I've heard.
Totally. I think it's very refined and like mature, which I guess for a Giz record, you don't always necessarily get that. And I think it's a good like reflective moment in their careers where it's like they're kind of at this point more of like a veteran band, even though they haven't been around for super long. They have just so much music.
They've been around for a while.
They've been around for over 10 years. But
it feels like they're a new band because the King Giz mania hit somewhat recently, like 2020, let's say. I feel like that's when the Giz mania really set in, where they were one of the biggest touring acts in the world, where you had true Giz heads who went to every show, who were bootlegging concerts, all that stuff. But that, Rattlesnake, which was like their first radio hit, was 2015.
2017.
Oh, 2017?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was going to say 2015, 2016.
yeah, no, it was 2017, but it feels like 2015.
Yeah, brother.
That, in my opinion, that's
I'm
when
so
the Giz...
tired of living through so many historical events. I fucking hate when people say that. Dude. Shut
the
up.
fuck up. You ain't lived through shit.
Yeah. You have no part in this. You're behind a stand-up desk, you fucking loser.
Yeah, go fucking bounce on your yoga ball.
Yeah. Because I'm behind a stand-up desk, and I don't say shit like, I'm so tired of living through so many historical events. I say, I'm so tired of living through feeling
My
like
own life.
nothing is happening ever.
I'm checked the fuck out, and I'm not even 30. No, but at the end of the day, the Giz record's good. Check it out. That's pretty much the only new thing that I've been listening to lately. There's not...
I feel like I'm missing... Let me go to my new music real quick. Wilco put out a live album. I just did listen to that.
I saw that they put it out. But is it good?
Oh, I've been listening to the Alive in the Catacombs EP a lot.
They announced a tour
They announced
for
a
the
tour.
Catacombs.
Yes. Yeah, I've been. I guess we haven't talked about Alive in the Catacombs on the pod yet.
I thought we talked about it with the Sandman a little bit.
I think we just talked about the fact that it existed, but we haven't talked about you and I seeing it.
No.
So I bought it when I found out it came out, and
Our
then
takes.
I didn't get to watching it until like a week after I bought it. But it is, dare I say, a masterpiece.
It's absolutely beautiful. I don't know if I should say this. Dare I say, I think it might be my favorite like live. Some people call it a documentary. It's obviously not a documentary. It's just like a live performance video.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite live performance video from a band that I've like ever seen, bar none. Like it's so much more thoughtful and meaningful and impactful than like anything that I've seen recently. And it's so short, and yet it's just so powerful the whole time.
You know, when you like watch something and you're like, oh, this will be something I return to as like comfort viewing. Like this is getting me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt watching Live in the Catacombs.
Yeah,
like
no.
I'm gonna, like I own this. I'm gonna watch this fucking all the time.
I rented it because I was like,
I
I'm
bought it.
probably only gonna watch it a couple times, but no, I could watch it once a week for the next couple of years at least and be still recharged by it every time.
And the performances are so good. It gave. What's cool about Queens of the Stone Age is it's such a layered band. There's so much. Like I feel like I've been a very dedicated Queens of the Stone Age fan for 15 years now.
Yeah.
And still, like, anytime they do something like this, there's something different to discover about Queens of the Stone Age and to get into.
Yeah.
And the, like, arrangements and performances they did of these songs, so, like, there's no songwriter like Josh Homme.
No.
And no one with that sense of melody.
Yeah.
And his voice is amazing the whole time through. It's such a good
It's beautiful.
performance.
It really... It brings to light something that I think a lot of Queens fans feel, but it just reaffirms it. Like all that shit you said about Josh Homme, it's like he's got to be one of the more underrated rock musicians of the last I want to say 30 plus years. Like they should be the biggest rock band in the world. They should be like the Foo Fighters. I was
just about to say the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl himself knows that he's a grifter and that Josh Homme is the best rock star in the world.
Once in a generation talent.
Sorry, I don't mean to say that Dave Grohl's obviously very talented.
Dave Grohl is talented in a totally different way. He's
drifting as being the biggest band in the world. When he's collaborated with Josh Homme, he knows how big that dude should be.
Yeah, and it's not that it's not fair, because I don't think Josh Homme wants to be the biggest rock star in the world. If he wanted to, he'd obviously be trying
him
to.
Even doper.
Even cooler.
Yeah.
But no, it's just the fact that they've always been so true to themselves. And like, I think the thing that the Catacombs video really put into perspective for me was how much it really means to Josh Homme also. Like it always, I don't know, for some reason to me, especially like after like Clockwork and before Villains, when they were in like the mid 2010s era, it kind of felt to me like Queens of the Stone Age was just like a thing that Josh Homme just did. Like
it had as much weight as Caius and Eagles of Death Metal.
Exactly.
And Eagles of Death Metal wasn't great.
Sure.
And, so I kind of felt the same way, where I was like, oh, Queens of the Stone Age is just kind of this, like funny alt-rock band.
I always loved the music.
Yeah, I
so
did too.
much,
I would never turn a Queen song off when it came on, but I never like gave them the weight of being one of the best bands in the last 25 years.
And now, like, hearing them do some of their older songs from that time in this context, it's like, oh man, he literally gave such a huge shit like the whole time. Like every song, every idea, all the lyrical content was always done to like such a high level, and so naturally that sometimes it seems effortless. Like they might not give a shit about what they're releasing, but they clearly always have. And yeah, like what you said about just his sense of melody, like he writes melody and carries melody and ties melodies together and has through lines and songs that like genuinely no one in the last 25 years has even come close to.
The whole, it's like his voice is the conductor and just like everyone else is like filling in the air around it.
And it's such a presence. Like it's just such a powerful and commanding presence. And like, you know, for those who don't necessarily know the full backstory of the Catacombs, like Josh Homme was dealing with medical issues and was not feeling well at the time when they filmed, and almost thought at certain points throughout filming that he wasn't going to be able to like finish. Like he essentially left the hospital to film the Catacombs video, and then when it was done, went back to the hospital.
I heard him on Bill Burr say there was actually one legitimate like death scare
he thought he was
during
gonna
it
die
that
for
he
a
like
little
got
bit.
a crazy sharp pain. And
I'm glad you listened to that. I listened to that too.
Yeah, I've been listening to every Josh Homme appearance, and they've been trying to do Alive in the Catacombs for 20 years. Like as soon as he knew that the Catacombs existed, pretty much he was like, I'm gonna do a concert there, which is so cool. And yeah, they really capitalized on the opportunity. Like the songs are amazing, the arrangement, and then the directing of it, the vibe of it. There's no fucking cooler looking band than Queens of the Stone Age.
Man.
Every single person is like who you would draw as the coolest person to be in a band. Troy Van Leeuwen, John Theodore, John Shoemaker. Is that his last name?
Mm-hmm. Shoemaker, yeah. Mike Shoemaker, I think.
Oh, sorry. I said John. John Theodore, Mike Shoemaker. All those guys are just fucking
Dean
so...
Fertitta.
Yeah, Dean Fertitta. So cool looking. And...
yeah, I do think they're the best. They will go down in history as the best rock band from the 2000s. They should go down as probably the best band since the Beatles in a lot of ways. You know, obviously U2's in there also. Like it goes the Beatles, U2, Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah. That's the obvious.
But no, I do think they're one of those bands that they've been mostly like cult famous for most of their career, and they're going to experience a huge blow up in the back half where like people start to realize how important they are the longer time goes on. And I really think that like this performance specifically just captures such a unique moment in Josh Homme's history and the band's history. And you can feel in the video and through the performances of the songs, like how much care there is for each other in the room. Like there's a part where it's just Dean Fertitta playing like a Hammond, not a Hammond,
Rhodes.
A Rhodes type instrument, and Josh Homme singing, and Josh Homme like looks at Dean Fertitta for a second, and you can just tell there's just like
there's a lot of moments like that. There's a lot of moments of Dean Fertitta looking at Josh Homme where he's like, wow, I like fucking love playing keys to your voice right now. This is so rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
And Dean Fertitta, I mean, all love to the guy. Normally, looks like he's chiseled out of stone. Like, he's just, like, expressionless fucking... being a rock star, you know? Just not giving a fuck, being a cool guy. But, like, that vulnerability in those songs was, like, so powerful for me.
Well, so... And the thing with Queens of the Stone Age... I have this, like... I don't know if it's just me or if other people have this perception, but... I have this thing with a lot of bands where it's like your first 5 to 10 years of a band are the legitimate years where you're actually interesting and you're doing something cool, and like it's cool to be a fan of you.
You
and
have like 2 to 3 LPs.
I'm taking your releases seriously, and then the rest of it is just you know, you're a legacy rock band.
You're either riding the coattails of that, or you're completely leaving that and doing something so far in the other direction.
Why that's a problem is because I thought that about so many bands who I now look back on and like their albums in the 2010s. I'm like, what was wrong with me? Like that was the coolest time of that band, and I just thought they were like has-beens who were like going along with it.
Yeah,
Queens of the Stone Age are always a band that seemed like, in that moment, they were cool to like. They were at their peak. They were doing the best thing they could do, and it just has continued to feel like that. And that's what this documentary felt like. Is like, man, Queens of the Stone Age is still like
they're on the cutting edge.
Yeah, they're cool to like.
Always.
I feel like this is as legitimate. Like this documentary that they did is as legitimate as Songs for the Deaf in terms of like them pushing.
100%. And even like you know, with I always just bring it back to Villains because that's such an interesting album cycle for me. Like, it polarized their fan base so much, but they doubled down so hard in who they are as a band and what their public image is in such a way that so many bands couldn't pull off. Like, imagine like Foo Fighters, just because they're the obvious comparison example. Imagine them making a record with Mark Ronson that's like a tongue-in-cheek dance pop record that's actually
totally
like a super existential
Dave
punk
Grohl in a
record
leather
about, like,
jacket
death.
dancing
Exactly,
in a
like
room and singing.
no one else could pull that off, and not only pull it off, but also it still seems completely genuine, even though there's a tongue-in-cheekness to it, even though it's kind of, you know, a commentary on modern pop, modern rock, and how samey it all is. It still is so original and so different that, like, and the lyrical content on Villains is so heavy that it's like all the songs are still about shit. There's just like, there's no other band that can pull off of Villains like that at the end of the 2010s and then roll directly into, you know, like a Times New Roman record where it's like so deep, so dark, so personal, and essentially kind of a continuation on some ideas that they've had for over 10 years.
Yeah, well, like Clockwork, Villains, Times New Roman, that's the trilogy. And which is cool, like, again, late in their career to, like, do, like, this is
have
our cohesive album block. Yeah, that's conceptual and that plays off each other. And we're going to wait 4 years between albums and still make it feel like it's, you know.
It's just one long continuing thing. And also, like, I really hope, this is just me saying this as a fan, I really hope that this iteration of the band is kind of the forever iteration.
I hope so too.
Because, like,
it's so perfect.
I mean,
now.
John Theodore is the best possible drummer they could have for that band, and he's just a fucking machine. And, like, you know, obviously Shoes has been in the band for so long that I don't think he's going anywhere. I hope he doesn't. But, like, I think part of Queen's early identity and, like, not necessarily finding that rhythm and having that consistency was just because of so many consistent member changes, and then finding this current lineup and running with it, to me, is an indicator that Josh Homme is, like, comfortable in this iteration and that this is what feels right. So I hope that that's the truth.
One second.
Fuck JD Vance. On a real note, that dude is such a puppet. I can't believe someone who had so much conviction against Donald Trump for so long just folded like a puppet so hard at the chance of future power. Oh, bro came down the stairs fucking smooth with it.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. I was watching a thread about JD Vance talking about Iran's enriched uranium.
What do you think about
saying, fuck JD Vance also, because that dude's such a puppet.
Oh,
he was literally
JD
like
Vance
he was such a stark Trump. Like, he hated Trump.
Yeah,
he hated Trump and thought that Trump was going to do so much damage to American politics. And then Trump said, you know, what if you got in on this and then someday your name was known?
What if we made it so you could be the most
possibility-
bullied person on the internet? But at least people will be talking about you and paying attention to you, you fucking pathetic narcissist cuck.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
Sure. Anything
Can
for
I
a little
wear
bit
my
of attention.
guy liner and get a fake tan? Fuck JD Vance.
Yeah.
He
There we
is horrible.
You're up to speed now.
What was I just about to say about we finished a world politics segment earlier in the episode, but I did have one more thing to say. Did you see that he was on Theo Vaughn's podcast recently?
Who? Trump
JD
or Vance? No.
Fuck Theo Vaughn.
Fuck Theo Vaughn, bro. I tried so hard to give that dude a little bit of grace because he had both sides of the aisle on, but it's so clear what he actually thinks is true.
Well,
and what side he's actually on, and where the like, I think, and this isn't even Theo Vaughn's fault. Hell, this might not even be Joe Rogan's fault, but I'm pretty sure it is Joe Rogan's fault. The right wing, the conservative side of our political spectrum has realized that, like, the young demographic and even the millennial demographic gets all of their opinions and all of their media information and world perspectives from podcasts like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn.
So here's something troubling for us, Julian. Did you see that Queens of the Stone Age just made a post of a selfie with Theo Vaughn that they were at a show in Nashville?
I did see that, and I think that totally checks out because Josh Homme would definitely like that.
And Josh Homme loves
edgier
comedy. And hey, here's the thing. Theo Vaughn is really funny.
Sure. Theo Vaughn's funny, and also Josh Homme has been kind of outspoken as a libertarian for most of his life. So
yeah, what's disappointing, but he's obviously like a progressive dude. You know, he has the desert weirdness in him.
He's
The
got
Southern
the desert
California
weirdness
desert.
of like, I
a lot of
definitely have a
independence.
gun. I definitely want to do whatever the fuck I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that type of shit.
Which
I
stuff I don't disagree with necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a Proud Boy, like a fucking white supremacist, secret white supremacist, kind of pushing a narrative, but like pushing a narrative in a tacit enough way that people don't notice that you're pushing a narrative. Like,
so here's my problem with Theo Vaughn is that a couple weeks ago he did this long YouTube clip of him saying, guys, what's going on in Palestine? This is horrible. I can't believe what I'm living through. And then the next week...
I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, it's a video I watched. It's like a month old now of him saying how depressed and shocked he is about the genocide.
That 60,000 Palestinians have died.
In Palestine. And then, so I haven't watched the J.D. Vance Theo Vaughn podcast episode. I can't bring myself to watch something like that. I'm not going to watch it. But I imagine that Theo Vaughn does not challenge J.D. Vance at all on it, and because that's not his style.
No, that's the thing.
And, you know, he's not going to do that.
If you're going to have these people
So you can't have it both ways, you fucking dickhead. You can't make a YouTube clip where you're like, oh, I feel bad about what's happening in Palestine. Be like, hey, you know, guy who's responsible for what's happening in Palestine, come on the pod and we'll joke around and I'll throw you a couple friendly questions.
That's the thing. If you're going to have both sides of the aisle on, you need to challenge both sides of the aisle. Like, he had Bernie Sanders on, and I had a lot of respect for that because I was like, oh shit, Bernie's obviously so far progressive, identifies as a democratic socialist, obviously independent, not affiliated with a party, but like the fact that Theo Vaughn had him on and heard him out and like kind of listened to Bernie Sanders, as Bernie Sanders said, Donald Trump is an evil man. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about the American people. And having Theo Vaughn kind of seemingly coming to this realization, being like, oh, fuck, you might be right. Like, Donald Trump might not give a shit about the public and the common good. And then immediately after that episode, he has Donald Trump on, and Donald Trump proceeds to lie through the whole podcast and say bullshit after bullshit, and Theo Vaughn is just like, yep, totally agree, and doesn't challenge anything, even though he just supposedly had so much insight and
ask questions like, what's your favorite quality about your son?
Yeah. Fucking...
Are you fucking Oprah?
And so
you're supposed to be a edgy stand-up comedian.
Here's where it gets complicated for me.
Be a stand-up comedian. He's a podcaster. He's not a stand-up comedian.
Well, he is a comedian who turned podcaster, and now the podcast probably nets him more revenue, keeps him in the public attention more than his stand-up did. So he runs with that. But what I was going to say is just that at the end of the day, with Theo Vaughn specifically, and I mean Joe Rogan too, obviously, but like, the administration reached out probably to Theo Vaughn and said, the election's coming up. We need young votes. We need millennial votes. So Donald Trump's going to come on your podcast. You're going to sweet talk him. You're going to suck his dick for a few hours. That episode's going to come out, and we're going to net millions of voters from it, essentially. Yep. And Theo Vaughn probably just said, okay, because, you know, if the administration comes to you and says some shit like that, you're going to do it.
As long as I can be a fancy boy in the fancy
draw the
spotlight.
parallel to, you know, like Barack Obama being on the Mark Maron podcast when podcasting was like essentially at its peak over 10 years ago.
Yeah, but that was late in Obama's second term. He didn't have a re-election to...
It wasn't used so much as a like political gain tactic, but it was used as a way to make Obama seem accessible to millions of people who are listening as just average listeners. And I not that they're obviously not the same. I love that Barack Obama was on the What the Fuck podcast and that, they did it in Marin's garage and there were snipers on the roof. Like, that's great. I love that they did that. What I don't love is how that has kind of been usurped by the far right as a way for them to platform themselves to young.
Oh, yeah.
And it works. Like, I know so many people who are 20 years and younger who all voted for Donald Trump because they have internet presence and they're on the cool guy podcasts.
That's all it takes.
They act like normal people. That's literally all it takes.
Have you heard Anthony Jeselnik talk about this at all?
A cog in the machine. No, I haven't.
So Jeselnik released that special, and I was thinking of him because of Queens of the Stone Age. Him and Josh Homme are good friends,
buds, right?
and they've like toured together or done shows together. And Anthony Jeselnik is maybe my favorite comedian around today. I love everything Anthony Jeselnik does. And he released his last special, and he went on this kind of crusade across. He just did a couple podcasts, but he was talking mad shit about podcasts and podcasters and said, if you are a person who has a major political figure on your platform and you do not challenge him or talk shit about him, you're not a comedian, you're a podcaster. If you abandon stand-up comedian dates, cancel your dates to do a podcast with a famous politician, you're not a comedian, you're a podcaster. He said that podcasts are ruining comedy, that he doesn't have respect for people like Joe Rogan or Theo Von, or, he didn't name names, but it was very obvious he was talking about. And I feel, to your point, it was so disappointing. Comedians that a lot of them I didn't really like, but I would listen to them every once in a while, kind of respected, kind of liked. People like Bobby Lee, who then had Robert F. Kennedy on his podcast and just used it as a, dick suck opportunity instead of, Bobby Lee, who has bragged a lot about throughout his career as being a very progressive person, and then you have Robert Kennedy on, and you don't challenge him on anti-vax policies or anything. Fucking cowards. Ironically, the only person I heard talk a little shit in any podcast with a politician was Shane Gillis, who's often positioned as a right-wing comedian. But they had Robert Kennedy on his podcast. He didn't blatantly talk shit, but he just did not take it seriously at all and was making jokes at Robert Kennedy's expense. He was the only guy who did anything tastefully with having politicians on your podcast.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because I guess this is just a separate kind of side thought to that. But the dangerous thing about this also is taking Shane Gillis for an example. People like Shane Gillis, but they don't even realize that a lot of his jokes are kind of right-leaning, that he is taking an ironic perspective.
Ironic, yeah.
Well, but he's ironic sometimes, but then other times he is very much aligning with conservative viewpoints and thought processes, and people can't even separate the two, where they're just oh, well, it's funny, so I agree with it because it's funny. But it's well, no, he's kind of divisively using comedy to get you to agree with his perspectives on things.
Yeah,
which is
I guess I don't know where I stand with Shane Gillis because Tom
Segura does the same thing, not really on a political side, but more just on a social side of if you don't think the way that I think and if you don't act the way I act, then you're a fucking loser. And then people think, oh, it's a joke, but also there's an element of truth to it, so I'm gonna adhere to this lifestyle and live this way and kind of turn myself into a fucking closed-minded dickhead as well. So it becomes a slippery
with
slope.
Shane Gillis, that's what I was. The only thing I knew about him was fired from SNL and that he's sort of a right-wing comedian. And then I watched a special of his out of interest, and most of it was shitting on Donald Trump. And I was oh, this is interesting. And I do I've listened to a lot of stuff Shane Gillis has done, and I feel most of the time he's being a reasonable person, showing Donald Trump, but he won't, if there's an opportunity to get more popular off of liking Donald Trump or taking a selfie with Donald Trump, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just disgusting in itself. You're kind of again, tacitly endorsing an evil person who does evil things, and because of the social popularity aspect of it, that's the only thing you care about. Like, it's cool, it's edgy to like Donald Trump, like, you know, obviously the whole toxic masculinity aspect of like real men like Donald Trump, and you have to be a real man and vote conservative, but like, that's all just a fucking illusion. Like, it's all an act perpetrated, again, by the machine itself to get you to shift your perspectives to more match exactly what they want you to be. Just a moldable fucking idiot who will believe anything that Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan says on their podcast, which, again, Joe Rogan on his podcast all the time says, I'm not an expert. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just proposing alternate ideas, alternate perspectives that people don't consider usually. And that's intentionally misleading people and making it seem factual. And if you're okay with that, like, that's just fucked. That's exactly the antithesis of what this country is supposed to stand for, and like how people are supposed to use free media. We use this podcast as a means to express ourselves and have fun and like get to know people that we want to know better. And again, dialing it all the way back to What the Fuck with Mark Maron, that's what the core of podcasting was like, let's have an open discussion with people that we don't always see eye to eye with, and let's try to find common ground and have open dialogue. And now podcasts are, how can we push our agenda onto people without them seeing that we're pushing an agenda as much as possible? Mm-hmm. And it's just fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
And
how do we become the next leg of the mainstream media while also talking trash about how the mainstream media sucks?
Yeah, how they suck, how we're anti-mainstream media. But also, this video is brought to you by Celsius and Walmart and AG1.
And BetMGM. And
yeah, fucking just disgusting. It's all disgusting. And it's evil, and it's all a ploy to get us more moldable and less pushbacky on things that happen.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I can't wait for this clip to be played to point out what hypocrites we are when we're rich podcasters endorsing the next
I feel good about
president.
This.
Yeah.
I feel good about what we do here because I know for a fact that even if we had the opportunity to turn this into a money machine, we would not do that. That is not why we do this podcast. And furthermore, we use podcasting for what its intended use is.
Yeah.
Fucking around, having fun, having an open dialogue, meeting people that we wouldn't normally get the opportunity to like talk to, I guess, and sharing it with the world, the people that care to see it.
If everyone had a podcast like we had a podcast where you could just talk about the music that has come out recently that you like, and you could use it as an opportunity to connect with your friends and talk about real shit that matters, the world would be a better place.
I think
if if every twosome of friends had a podcadzo between them, I would love that.
It's actually kind of funny. I can't remember what I was listening to. I think it might have been the Bill Burr, Josh Homme podcast. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but they mentioned at some point that podcasting is, in the modern era, just a way for male friendships to like keep going. Like,
yeah,
we wouldn't.
I don't remember if that's in that pod.
It might be a different
totally
one,
agree.
but yeah, like we wouldn't necessarily have these conversations and do these things if it wasn't for the podcast format. That's not true, obviously. Like for everybody, like I think me and Colin would still talk about you too if we didn't have the cameras on and we weren't filming at all.
You can't stop us from doing that.
I think we would still have a relatively close personal connection, and we would talk about the things that we care about and all that stuff, and we would obviously know how the other person feels about the global state and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it really is a good way for anyone to keep something going that they care about. Like, we care about music, obviously. We care about modern music. We care about old music. There's a lot of kind of culty, kind of niche music that we care about that we just feel that people don't talk about. And like, even if no one listens to this and it doesn't impact the world at a global scale, just the fact that we have these conversations and that they are recorded, to me, that checks off the box of, well, we did the thing we set out to do. We mentioned these things that we felt that people didn't talk about, or even that people are talking about that we just also have different takes on. And that's what it's about. I really encourage everyone who has ever even thought about starting a podcast or any sort of short form content to just go ahead and fucking do it. Like, you're not going to know if you like it. You're not going to know if people react to it until you just do it. And we all have that right. Like, everyone has the right at this point to take up a little bit of space in the social media sphere.
Yeah.
Like, we've all
Don't listen
earned
to
that.
people who are saying we should put tariffs on podcast equipment. Too many people have podcasts. Yes, there are too many podcasts. Don't be a douchebag about your podcast. Don't be a douchebag about promoting it. But it's a great way to inspire dialogue, to create an environment where you can talk about things in this manner, to connect with friends, to have deeper conversations. Joe Strummer in the 70s said everyone should start a band. I'm saying right now, everyone should start a podcadzo style music podcast.
Yeah. It goes back to, like, kind of the thing that the original fuck Rick Beato topic.
Oh, by the way, fuck Rick Beato. It's been a couple episodes.
The reason why we initially started talking about or the reason why I initially disagreed with Rick Beato and thought he was a fucking moron was because of his take of there's too many people making music.
Yeah.
I think you could apply that to podcasts as well. There's never going to be too many people doing one thing or another thing as long as it's creative and genuine. It doesn't matter if there's so many people doing it that you have less of a chance of being discovered. It matters that everybody feels encouraged and able to share their creative ideas and beliefs in a free and open space.
And you know what the number one way or the number one thing getting in the way of doing creative things genuinely is right now? AI.
AI. Holy shit. Great transition.
Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to just circle back around to this because, to my memory, the last time we really talked about AI, I was kind of on the side of, like, I'm afraid that people are not going to be able to distinguish AI from real shit. And you were kind of on the side of people will always be able to distinguish AI from real shit.
Well,
but people will always care
I was
to.
with you. I have legitimate concern people won't be able to tell the difference, and that's already happening anyways. But I was saying that the way AI is being shoved down everyone's throats right now is such bullshit because it's so unconvincing, and there will always be part of us that recognizes the lack of humanity in things that AI have created, which hopefully to rational people makes it uninteresting and just, they won't fuck with that media.
Okay, that's very well said. And I do agree with that in theory. The principle of that, yes, I would hope to be true. But I think I've kind of realized in the last couple weeks that people already have a warped perception of what AI even is to begin with. And I'll circle it to a Fantano video that I watched. I can't remember what it's called.
Was it about
something
Timbaland?
About the Timbaland one.
Yeah.
And shout out to Fantano because he really is continuing to have this conversation in a space and at a time when I feel like no one else is. And he is worried on behalf of a lot of people that should be worried that don't seem to be. And with the Timbaland thing, what scared me the most was, obviously Timbaland said Mickey Mouse was an AI character and like all of these other like cartoon, essentially hand-drawn cartoons from 100 years ago are all AI. And that to me says, whether or not Timbaland knows what actual AI is
It
kind
says
of...
to me, Timbaland has no grasp on history and does not know what AI is.
Or he might, and he's purposely misleading people, and
Yeah.
that's kind of besides the point. But the point
I
that
think
I'm
it's
trying to make is
purposely
just,
misleading
yeah,
people. He's
I
taking
agree.
legitimate art and saying, "Oh, that was just AI."
That was
and
AI.
Like, people are
Trying
calling
to downplay
my
it.
AI generated album that fucking sucks right now AI, but really it's legitimate art.
Yeah, and that's in root of it. That's what is the scariest thing to me. Like, people are gonna very quickly lose they're gonna lose the ability to distinguish like what is AI and what is actually original art created by people, with originality in mind rather than, because obviously for those who don't know, AI is trained purely based off of things that already exist. So if you if you
that's the
generate something
intention,
from
but that's
AI,
part of the problem. There's like an incestuous element of AI now, where there's so much AI in the world that AI is not being
influencing
trained
itself.
on AI. So
Yeah.
it's just
But
getting shittier and shittier.
in theory, AI is trained based on
yeah,
actual human
in theory,
content.
AI is meant to steal work from artists,
yes.
so you can replicate it for free without paying that artist at all.
Yes. And it's done most of the time, or all of the time, I guess, without really the artist's consent, unless you're Timbaland.
There's no consent at all. I was mentioning, I don't know if we talked about this on the pod or before, but that John Oliver special on AI slop. The most sobering part of that special that he did was a snippet from the CEO of a AI music generation service talking on a podcast, saying that, here's what he said. He said, music is just not fun to make for most people. There's a barrier to entry. You have to learn how to play an instrument, or you have to learn a production software, and that's just not fun. People shouldn't be having to learn an instrument to make music. Most people don't enjoy making music. And that's what my service does. And it should be obvious to everybody why that is such an insane statement.
But the sad thing is, it's not.
It's not. And
at the core of it, maybe I would even agree with that. Like, if the only thing that separates you from wanting to make music and being able to make that music is lack of accessibility, that's kind of one thing. But lack of motivation to try is a completely different
that's
thing.
the big thing. An art form should have a natural barrier to entry. The barrier should be you have to have a little bit of passion for that art form. And that should be it.
Sports are an art form,
Yeah.
right? They can't be replaced by AI because they're a human activity. But could you imagine, like, instead of the NFL, we're going to watch algorithms like
exactly.
fight
A pre-programmed
each other? Like,
robot show.
No, you'd be
throw
pissed
football
about that.
around,
You'd be like, fuck that. You shouldn't be okay with that in your music. Like,
no.
music is good because of the human-to-human accessibility that it has.
Yeah.
AI just will never have that.
It was just such a depressing statement to make, in the fact that this is a successful CEO with a successful AI music generation. Basically saying, you can just kind of pay us to make shit. We'll throw shit out into the world, and you can disrespect the art form entirely.
Yeah.
And
people are ultimately becoming okay with that.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that's the thing that, this is still the beginning of AI, really. We're dipping our toes in the water of what AI really is going to be doing for us. And 5 years ago, a lot of people said, fuck AI, it will never take over in the creative space. We will never let it take over in the creative space. And now some of those same people are using it because it's trendy and popular, and because it requires less work, less payout, whatever.
And because social media platforms, Meta, X, are incentivizing quote-unquote creators, hack fuckholes, to use AI.
Yeah.
Because they have a vested interest in you using their
Financial
AI
returns.
tools. For some reason, there's a secretive cabal behind AI and shoving it down everyone's throat when no one's really that interested in it. And if you're willing to play ball and make AI content, they will promote your shit more. It will be good for your algorithm, and they will pay you more money to do it. It's horrible, man. The world sucks enough without, like, the human element of everything being stolen from us and the few things we have left to enjoy.
I remember when, iPhone was under scrutiny for selling data or giving private data to tech firms and companies so that they could essentially target us more and advertise to us specifically more and do the whole turning the algorithm against you thing, that was like a huge controversy 10, 12 years ago. And now we're almost inviting it. We're saying, hey, Apple, hey, Google, hey, all of these huge, massive tech firms that have all of our private data, just take it and use it to feed this AI platform that will inform itself based on all this input that it has and then learn from it. Like, we're just okay with that now all of a sudden. I'm not. I personally feel like, this would never happen, but if the Cadzo record was taken and used to train an AI to write an indie record, like, I would never be okay with that. And anyone who's in the creative space, I think, shares that sentiment. No one's okay with taking intellectual property that belongs to them for free and using that to train an AI platform that will then give that information and data to millions of people for free while still putting millions of dollars in the pockets of the CEOs that already have billions of dollars. Like, no one should be okay with that. And the fact that people use it as a mere tool for convenience now, like what we were saying earlier. Oh, I don't know how to play guitar. I don't want to learn how to play guitar. I'm going to have AI write me a guitar song. Like,
and the only reason you would do that is for monetary gain, is what I was going to say earlier about that point too. The only reason you would want to make a song without learning how to make a song is because you want the financial benefits of having a song in the world.
Or even,
and unfortunately, there is a lot of AI music that's consumed right now. There are 100% AI bands on Spotify right now with above 500,000 listeners. Mm-hmm. And we pour our heart and soul into writing an AI generated tune like Larimer Street. I'm just joking.
Write me a blues song.
Yeah.
No, it is shitty. And I think, again, like what I initially said at the beginning of this, like, there's only very select people who are having this conversation openly. Fantano being one of them. There's others. Obviously, Rick Beato is one of them who's pretty afraid of AI taking over. And he's right. Like, it already is. We've already seen it happening. It's already steering creative direction, monetary direction. Like, it is influential already. But not enough people are having the conversation of not even trying to oppose AI, but just saying out loud, I am not okay with this. And I know a lot of people who are creative types, artists, musicians, athletes, all that stuff, who essentially are okay with the AI integration because it's entertaining, even though they shouldn't be okay with the AI integration because it's directly threatening the thing that they like to do.
Yeah.
And it's just really sad.
And so many people, whether it's implicit or explicit, they use the rationale that, oh, human evolution has progressed us to this point where we're able to create an AI. This must be natural. This must be part of what's intended to happen. And we can use AI to enhance the human experience and to enhance art and to become a better humanity. And to those people, I'd say, this is a freak accident that AI has happened, and we should resist it with every iota of strength that we have.
And that would be okay if AI was used, if the intention of AI was to be used as a supplemental tool.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not. It's meant to be used as replacing.
It's replacing artists, because why would the music business need to exist and pay out artists and pay out, songwriters, producers, labels, tours, all that shit? Like, why would any of that need to be paid out if all of that could be done by a singular AI who works for free and essentially steals all of that content from musicians who put in the work and the effort? There's just no way that you can run a business and say, oh, yeah, no, I want AI to exist supplementally. No, people want AI to fully take over in entire aspects of the creative
even in
process.
its purest form, people say, oh, well, AI is just, it will make you more productive. It will take the tedious tasks out of your day. We don't need to be more productive. We've produced enough shit. We should be less. People should be chilling right now.
Yeah.
We've done it, guys. We've created a lot of cool stuff.
And what are you going to do with
No
all your
one should
time?
be working
No one's going to pay
40 hours
you.
a week unless you're saving lives. No one should be, making spreadsheets and PowerPoints that no one gives a fuck about, that we don't need. No one should be starting businesses and making new products that no one's asking for just to drive commerce. We've done it. We don't need tools that make us more productive, that take us away from what actually matters in life, which is like personal connections and spending time with the people we love and doing things that are meaningful, doing things that are artistic. And even the argument of like taking away the tedious part of your jobs. Life is supposed to be a little tedious. There's supposed to be tedious things you have to deal with. We can't just eliminate all of this from us and become those fucking wheelchair people
when those
in WALL-E.
things are eliminated, there's no backup plan for us. It's not like, okay, well now AI's doing all this tedious shit for us, so now you're going to get paid to do things that you want to do. That's not how it's going to work.
Plan. There's no universal basic income. They're going to replace us.
We're going to be
You're
replaced.
not going to get paid.
You're not going to be getting income for the things that you used to be getting paid to do at a basic human level. And yeah, there is no one has the contingency plan of like, oh, well now, AI is doing all of this monotonous work that humans used to do, so now those humans can get paid to do things that they want to do. That's not going to happen. We're not going to have this,
Yeah, because the first thing that has been
utopian
replaced
world.
is things that people want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Art,
music,
creative
making
content
videos,
in general.
making, even photography. Like, and this is a slippery slope because like we have friends that use AI to make artwork for music and stuff like that. And like, you should challenge yourself because, 10, 15 years ago, if you had a great song, but you didn't know what art to use for it, you would push yourself to come up with something clever.
Yeah, or you'd
Now you
hire
just
someone
punch
who
it
has dedicated
into-
their lives to learning that.
Now you
Who,
just
who
punch it
cares
into an
about it,
algorithm.
who's devoted to it.
Yeah. And it is hard as an artist who only has certain accessibilities and certain tools and assets that you would be tempted to use AI because it's cheap or free, takes no effort, you get what you want almost instantly. It's instant gratification. But I just challenge anyone who thinks that that is okay as a substitute or as a full replacement to really ask yourself, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, growing up, or even as an adult who just sees the world changing, would you have been okay with this? And I think a lot of us wouldn't have been okay with it in the past, but we've been slowly trained to just see AI as just a goofy thing that is a supplemental tool that is entertaining and fun, but not a serious threat. But it really is a serious threat. And the most serious threat in my mind is that people really just at this point are starting to fully lose the ability to distinguish what AI even is from what real content
and
is.
it's now being used as a political tool in that way, which is probably one of the reasons why there's been such a push behind AI. But in the interest of making real art, I say let's start to wrap this up. Let's go play some real instruments.
Yeah.
Jam.
The YouTube
connect to the
talk is going to
human
have to wait till
spirit.
the next episode.
Yeah, we do need to do a full. I have been listening to so much YouTube lately. It's almost all I've been listening to.
Literally same.
Yeah.
It's weird. Okay, so I've been going through a lot of like personal changes lately, and for some reason U2 is the most like, for me, because of my upbringing and my experience and just how I discovered U2 and what they mean to me, they're like the most centering band for me at this point. Like, I listen to U2 to find my center, both like from a nostalgic perspective of like, damn, I've liked this shit for so long, and then also finding my center in the sense of like being recharged by shit that I've listened to for so long that I still feel like I'm discovering new things about.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, I feel like the U2 thing for the podcast is almost kind of like a joke sometimes of like, we talk about it so much because of how much people dislike U2. But lately, man, I've just been listening to so much U2 and watching so many live performance videos and interviews and just so much U2 related content that I really have convinced myself that they are just like the best band
U2 is
ever.
my favorite band. I've, somewhat joked about Oasis being my favorite band on this podcast. Oasis is definitely one of my favorite bands, non-ironically. But in the last couple of weeks, I've just fully accepted that U2 is my favorite band. In some way, they've always been my favorite band. And I don't know if this is just because I love them so much and because they have such a personal connection in my life. But to me, U2, more than any other band, connects with the universal, connects with what we're all thinking and feeling. Is able to write melodies and lyrics that speak to that more than any other band. And that's why I love them, and that's why they're so comforting to listen to.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. With me, like, the dissociation for U2 for so long was because I was on the pursuit in finding, like, the best band, like the people that write the absolute best music. And obviously, for me, U2's not that band. Like, I think Tom York, Radiohead, Johnny Greenwood, they write way better music.
Yeah.
Like, objectively, the music is way better and more creative. It endures time better. It's more relevant for longer, all that stuff. So there's better bands than U2. But U2, I think, is also my favorite band. They're the best band. Like, they're the best at being a band. And, like, it really, in my mind, it's like the Beatles and then U2. Those are the two bands that really set the course and determine what every other band does for decades to come. And watching so many of their live performances, like, they really have consistently been the best stadium band live for decades. Like, there's no argument. They put on the best show. They're the most consistent. They have the best production value, the most stage presence, like, all of it. They're consistently the best live band, I think. And their music isn't the most complicated, so it's kind of like,
well, that's what makes it even more beautiful
to be a better live band when your music's not the most complicated. But yeah, they embrace it. Like, for me, for a long time, I didn't necessarily love U2 because I thought they were kind of phony. But in my older age, I've realized they've always fully embraced exactly what they do. They've never claimed to be like the most technical band, the most progressive band, the band that pushes the narrative the most. They've always just claimed to be the band that wants to control rock the most.
Well,
and they
so
definitely have done that.
That they've kept a sense of naivete in their music.
Totally.
That Radiohead, yes, they are the coolest, most serious alt-rock band out there, and they're writing the most complicated and objectively best music. But U2 has managed to, like, keep the passion of being a garage band trying to sound a little bit like the Ramones into their 60s.
Totally. And I think that is something they've done super well. And then that we've talked about Songs of Innocence a lot. That was why I loved Songs of Innocence when I finally listened to it, was because I was like, damn, a lot of these songs sound like they were written in the 80s. Like, how have they maintained that through line through everything? Because they went through the 90s pretty much entirely neglecting that sound, and then they somehow managed to still have it so internalized that it just came right back. And as far as, like I said earlier, just being the best band, like, they've always stuck to their roles so significantly and pushed themselves.
They've had
within
identifiable
their roles.
members. They've kept the lineup the same. Yeah, kept
There's
the roles,
almost no
kept the
bands
personas.
where it's like,
no,
you have the same original founding members for that long.
Yeah.
And it really, it's a beautiful band. They say a lot of beautiful things. A lot of the music is obviously really beautiful and huge and driven for that kind of larger engagement. But I guess for me personally, the biggest revelation has just been like, yeah, I spent so much time only chasing down music that was like the best music of the time. But like the universalness of U2 and the accessibility of U2 has always been there. And like, you know, I saw U2 in 2004 at Pepsi Center. Pretty far back, pretty huge venue. but it felt intimate.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many bands since then at that same venue in the same location or closer even, where it's like not remotely as intimate.
Yeah, they can't do it.
And the ability to put on a show that huge and still make it feel like you are an integral part of the show is like a skill that, again, the Beatles have it and U2 has it, and arguably the Foo Fighters might have it, but like that even kind of comes and goes for the Foo Fighters. U2 is really like one of the only bands in the last 30 years where like that accessibility maintains no matter how huge they are. Yeah. And that says a lot. And they're so innovative, but in so many understated ways. Like their whole 90s and even into the 2000s, like they were pushing so many boundaries.
To my Queens of the Stone Age point earlier, U2 is one of those other bands that even when they were 30 years in their career, or not 30, but 20 years into their career, you're like, fuck, this is the most important U2 that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, some people can see that as conceited. Even I see it as conceited sometimes, like, you know, when Bono's in his mid-60s saying that the next U2 album is future music, I'm like, okay, douchebag. But
Yeah.
like, it really is true. Like, anything that they put out in the moment seems futuristic, and then after 15 years passed, it at the very least still seems modern. Like,
yeah, or the best version of what music was at that point in time.
Totally.
Yeah. So, in closing, if you don't like U2, fuck you. Seriously.
You should not be listening to this podcast.
Don't listen to this podcast. Don't listen to Podcadzo. Every song we're trying to sound like U2, okay? And thank you for listening to Podcadzo if you do like U2.
Yes, we appreciate all of the fellow U2 sympathizers.
Indeed. We love you. Good night.
See you next week.